Here I am, everyone. Am I screaming into the void? That's the real question. Am I screaming into the void? Only you can tell me. I saw that comment. I hope Trevor's not screaming into the void like last time. This is the first live stream that's actually worked the way I had hoped it was. So here we are. Even early. Wow, we're 1 minute early. But I saw everybody was waiting, so. And now everybody's saying hello and flooding my screen with hellos. Well, first of all, hello back, and thank you for joining me on the premiere episode of Season 4, the debut of my RPG system, the Broken Empires RPG. And the premiere of a whole new season with a new character who isn't really new, after all. In fact, you did know who it was, Vale. Some people had guessed that early on, and I was like, no, I'm not going to say anything, but it just felt right that I explore sort of her redemption arc as she tries to make herself worthy of what Sherilyn did. Somebody else had pointed out a long time ago that part of the thing they liked about all of these characters, the thing that kind of unifies the storylines of everybody, is that there's always this redemption arc for the characters. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. So I'm going to lean into that. So here we are. Okay, so there's a lot of people here, which is fantastic. There was a ton of people for the premiere. I've never had more than about 120 for the premiere, and today was something like 450. So that was amazing. Thank you all so much for coming out. So there's going to be a ton to talk about. There's going to be a ton of comments and a ton of questions that I'm going to try to get to as many of them as I can. But of course, we're always limited for time here. I don't want to drone on and on and on. So let's get to it. What'd you think? I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with how everything turned out. What can I tell you? I can tell you that there was a lot going on in this episode, obviously. Not only is the story moving fast and furious, although the story itself was very basic this time. Like, there's not a lot happened narratively. It was all about introducing elements of the system. And this was a tough line to walk, because I wanted to introduce aspects of the system, but not give away too much too soon, and also not bog down the whole thing so that it's just a tutorial video. I had no interest in that, even though that's very YouTube friendly. That's never been the purpose of my channel, certainly not the main show. So the idea of spending too much time explaining every little thing was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to go through it, and I'm going to pepper a little bit with what the rules are, and hopefully that'll entice people to go, oh, I wonder what that means. How does success levels work? Is that like a Benny? As a lot of people were saying, and I was just like, no, come back and find out. Come back and find out. So there it is. Wow. I'm also not used to having so many people here. So if I don't get to your comment or question, forgive me. I'm going to do my best. I'm everything here. I'm the moderator as well, so I have to keep a careful look at this stuff. Presumably, as time goes on and more people want to become part of this thing, I might actually have to get myself a proper moderator. But for the moment, it is just me. Okay, so let's talk about the game. That's sort of the big thing. The Broken Empires RPG, yes, it will be on Kickstarter. So, I have been developing this game, well, pretty much for 40 years. But really in earnest, I started last summer because I wanted to create something that was my own, something I could use on the channel, and something that would be... Oh, Wallona's Cave, thank you very much for that little tip. Thanks. Thank you very much. Very, very generous. I wanted to create something that was of interest to me, which meant what I call simulation light. I'm into hardcore, crunchy games, but not all the time. And I don't want, certainly not for the channel. I don't want like the channel to devolve into all this minutia just to get everything going. So the concept of the game is that it is very much on the simulation side of thing. It's not rules light, but it's not rules heavy either. Like, this is nowhere near as crunchy as something like Harnmaster or Mithras. Two games that I love, by the way. This kind of moves closer to what I would call the rules medium side of things. So it keeps things moving fast, but it gives you enough detail in the outcome of the rolls to sort of paint the picture, which I really love. I love the fact that the dice rolls tell the story, right? You're not just getting hit for 5 points of damage. You're getting stabbed in the left knee with a spear, and now that caused you to drop prone. I love all that stuff. So super, super, super cool there, and I'm very excited about it. Working out so good. Like, there's a couple little things, like I had to change a few little things. For example, originally, and you have to remember too, like, this game has gone through like 10 revisions over the past 6 to 8 months. So I'm always trying to keep track what of what is like the current version of the game. So sometimes I stumble and go, oh, wait a minute, and I'm actually using a rule that was abandoned four versions ago. But for example, the fumble rules. When you roll doubles over, it's a fumble, and normally that doesn't really do much, except in combat. Now, because of this episode, I realized, oh, fumble needs to do something, but not render the character incompetent, right? I hate fumble rules that take a sword's master and, oh, you fumbled, so you drop your sword like an idiot. I hate that. So what a fumble will do in my game is it makes you have disadvantage to your next action. So it's a momentary disadvantage, which is exactly what it should be if you're super skilled. So that's what that is. Yeah, there's a ton of information packed into the dice rolls, and that's on purpose. It's a very unusual combat system for me. I've never used the phase systems of early games like, oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you. He says, thanks for your work on the new season. Inspiring. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. I've never been able to make phase systems work in my head. I remember when I first saw Middle-earth role-playing back in the early 80s, and I saw it, and I was like, I don't know how phases work. I'm just going to make an initiative. Standard initiative. And all these years, I've been struggling, trying to figure out how to make it work. And finally, I kind of went, you know what? I know it works, and I'm going to challenge myself to teach myself a new way of thinking, because that's really what it is. You spend 40 years of rolling initiative every round or whatever it is. That gets lodged into your brain. What also gets lodged into your brain is, oh, well, you move 10 feet in attack. That was our old thing back in the old days, right? We would look at any role-playing game, and if we didn't understand the initiative system, we'd go, you know what? You just move 10 feet in attack. That was the default. So that's stuck. So I was like, no. This is going to be different. Now you can do one thing in the round, and that thing happens on its proper phase. And what I found was that there was some folks who are watching even now, who saw that phase system and went, oh, that makes a lot more sense to me. Which is fantastic. I didn't actually intend for that. I could have never dreamed that it would make more sense, but apparently it does to some people. So that's kind of cool. Another caveat as well, obviously this game's not going to be for everybody. Obviously people have different likes and dislikes, and people fall towards rules light games, rules heavier, whatever the case is. I'm making this game for me, and I'm kind of trying to serve an audience out there that's been, I think, kind of underserved over the past few years, because everything is so rules light now, which is nothing wrong with that. Those games are perfectly fine. But I know for me, I like a little more meat on the rules bones. So that's what I designed. And not something so meaty that it weighs down, you know, the whole process, because I do want things to move quickly. But somebody in one of the comments said, the game seems crunchy here because we're not getting all the information. We're getting an edited version of it, as well as the tutorial is sort of a half tutorial. I'm not really explaining everything. So they said it probably will play a lot faster than it reads, and that's true. Like, once you get the basics down, it's not difficult. It's not complicated. You just have to track a slightly different set of things than you would for any other game. So yeah, there are more quote-unquote crunchy things like hit locations, but I love hit locations, and I love piece armor, and I love individual wounds having an absolute effect. I love that stuff. And so I've created it in such a way that it gives you that effect without bogging the whole system down. And when I say I create it, yes, that's true. I've created the game, but I stand on the shoulders of giants here. I'm very open about the fact that this game has been heavily inspired by 40 years worth of role-playing games. So I don't take credit for virtually anything in this game for being particularly original. You know, maybe the repackaging of certain ideas are original, but standing on the shoulders of giants for all of those incredible creators who came before me. So just want to point that out there. Okay, enough talk from me. Let us, oh my God, there's so many things here. Let's try and take some questions here. Oh, I see we have I think Dave Thalmavor is here, and I think Kelsey is here as well from the Arcane Library, I believe. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Okay. Here we go. Yay. Oh, here we go. This is where I started to babble. Babble, babble. Babble, babble. All right. All right. Thomas Randy says, congrats on a fantastic Season 4 intro. So much fun seeing this world come together and your show progress over the 4 seasons. Thank you very much. It has been over 4 years since I started this thing, since Simon tried to rescue his doomed half-orc friend all those years ago. Amazing. Amazing that it's still going. Feel the Flump. Vale is an excellent choice for the protagonist. Yeah, I think so too. I was a little concerned about playing a female just because I'm a man and I can't really do convincing female voices, but I was like, what the hell? Who cares? I'm just gonna do it anyway. And she's an interesting character, and what I think makes her interesting to me is the fact that, again, she's on this redemption arc. She's trying to prove worthy of the sacrifice of Sherilyn, and I love that aspect. You know, like that's gonna drive her to do things that are very dangerous, and I love that. So we're gonna see where that goes. Of course, I have no idea where that's gonna go, but you know, that is the deal. Taffer's Tower, how tied to the campaign setting is the Broken Empires RPG? Will it be seamless and easy to use in a different setting? Yeah. So this is not a high fantasy world at all. This is not like the Forgotten Realms, right? This is more like Game of Thrones. So there is magic in Game of Thrones, but it's very subtle. Now, I know in previous seasons, magic has been a little more ostentatious. That's because of the systems I was using. In Savage Worlds, the magic was a little more overt. Not so much in Ironsworn. Ironsworn was very, very subtle, which is important, and I love that. Dominion Rules, we didn't see a ton of magic, but what we did see was gods actively taking an interest in the life of the protagonist. So it was very Greek that way, very Greek mythology, which was a surprise to me because I didn't think I had any interest in that. And then I found myself running a whole season where basically Edward is the plaything of Devona. So if you call that high magic, I don't know if you would. So you can use this in any what I would call mid to low fantasy setting. You can use it in a high magic setting if you want, but you have to understand that the way the magic system works, it punishes you if you try and stretch reality too much. Now, speaking of that, a lot of people I saw in the comments said, oh, so this is the World of Darkness magic system, like from Mage. To tell you the truth, this is far more influenced by Ars Magica. When I first saw Ars Magica way back in the day, I fell in love. I was like, this is the greatest magic system I've ever seen. Now, they have common DNA with a common creator. Mark Rainhagen, I believe, worked on both of those. But the idea of having a verb and a noun, basically I do a thing to a thing, that's very Ars Magica. And in terms of the success level numbers, that's all been carefully worked out. Obviously, it's still a work in progress. I'm not saying I got it perfect, but it has been worked out pretty good, and it works really well the way it is. It keeps magic very versatile and very powerful, but very limiting and very dangerous, which I like, because you have to have a limiting factor of magic. When magic can do anything, more or less, you have to have a limiting factor, and that limiting factor is you knock yourself out, dude, or you cause crazy things to happen. And I love that because I love chaos. All right, where are we here? Willona's Cave says Vale means Carlos. Carlos is 1,000 leagues away or more, so I'm going to say it's very doubtful Carlos shows up. But then again, it's mythic. You never know. You never know. Never Fear 1911 channel subscriber. I was thinking if a non-human might be the protagonist, but not a protagonist, but an ally. Well, that's kind of the case. We have Thrag. Thrag is a dwarf, and I have a whole setting thing on dwarves that I haven't shared with anybody yet. Which I hope will come out in this season. There's going to be aspects of what the dwarves are and sort of their backstory and what makes them, you know, they're not completely alien to your idea of dwarves from any other fantasy game, but there's some things that make them a little different. And it's not weird. It's not like they're actually plant people or something. It's just slightly different. Okay. Where are we? Intro was fire, says Alexander. Thank you. I love that thing. And I know a lot of people, I was scared. I was like, well, a lot of people are going to say, that's AI. And I'm like, well, yeah, but, you know, I can't afford to animate stuff. There's no way I could afford to do that. And I had a friend who's doing incredible work in it. And it's just me. It's not like I'm making money on it. And the fact is, I mean, especially as a voice actor, obviously I'm concerned about AI. I see it encroaching on my career already, but the fact is it's here. And like it or not, I don't want to be the last guy holding the buggy whip as the Model Ts drive by. And that's just the way it is. So a lot of people are going to love that. A lot of people are going to hate it. But, you know, now that said, we are working very hard to use only human art in the book itself. The AI stuff is there for, you know, bits of the show and stuff like that. But when it comes to the actual printed book where people are giving money for the product, yeah, that we're trying to make sure that artists, human artists, get paid real money for that kind of stuff. So just to set your minds at ease, that is the plan for the book. I don't want to go on and on too much about that whole AI thing because, frankly, it veers into politics and I'm not interested in those discussions. Okay. Okay, Robin Lees, here's a good question. As a new RPG system, what do you hope the Broken Empire system will be best known for? Well, I call it Sim Light, as I explained before. Simulation Light, which means that it tries to simulate a real feeling world, but it doesn't bog down play. It doesn't bog down the pace of play doing that. So it makes for a very immersive feeling world, like you kind of feel like you're there, and that your choices have real consequences, and that there are consequences to your actions, and there's bad consequences to failure, just as there are good consequences to success. So this is not a heroic game. I've often said that a hero is defined by the choices he makes, not the superpowers he has. So this is not your D&D 5e situation where everybody's got a bunch of special super magical abilities and they go off and they blow fireballs out of their butt. No, that's not this. I always bring it back to something more like, it's more Game of Thrones than it is Dragonlance, right? And even Dragonlance is fairly subdued because it was based mostly on 1st and 2nd edition AD&D, not on 5th edition AD before everybody had crazy powers. But so that's what I'm hoping it'll be known for. I'm hoping to appeal to the old school simulationists out there, old school sim as I call it, without alienating Rules Light lovers, because I don't want to present a textbook that you have to have a PhD in order to learn how to play. That's not the goal. I hate that. I hate forgetting rules at the table. So the more crunchy rules I have at the table, the more likely I'm going to forget them. So I don't want that. I want a game that I can remember with just enough rules that I can remember all the pertinent stuff. And that's what I have. And incidentally, a lot of old school simulation games, not all, but a lot of them do rely on tables. I don't. There's almost no tables involved in this. This is all based on what happens on the dice roll, which I quite like. Okay, Thomas Rani, subscriber. I actually love the teasing out of the system. Makes me want to rewatch the episode over and over again to pick up more. Well, please do. The way magic works is super cool. Yes, I'm super stoked about the magic system. In our playtests, the response has been universally good. People who have played the spellcasters are amazed at what they can do and terrified at doing it. So I love that. Okay, where are we here? Never Fear says, will Broken Empires be on drive-thru? Kickstarter's a no-go for me. Maybe. If the project funds and we actually have a game to sell, then yeah, I'm sure at some point it'll be on drive-thru. I mean, I am a drive-thru RPG affiliate, so it would make sense. But we have to fund the game first, so that's where you guys come in. And apparently we've got a whole bunch of folks set up for the, or signed up, I should say, for the VIP thing already, which is fantastic. I was amazed to see that, so that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Tell your friends, tell your gamer friends to come and watch the show, and if they're interested in helping support the game, then the more the merrier, because the more people to do, the more stuff I can provide, and the better the game's going to be, and all that kind of stuff. All right. Here's Brown Bear says, broadcast/movie premiere level entertainment. Also, I will have access to the system. Take my money, please. Okay, then I will. All right. Never Fear says, an assassin is going up against an almost lich. Yeah, she's got her work cut out for sure. She does have the spirit mantle. What is that? I don't know. I have no idea. It's a vestige of Sherilyn's power. That's all I know. I hope it works. Okay, where are we here? Jan Millen, I'm surprised your system wasn't a Rules Light version of 5e. If I could reach in the camera and throttle you, I'd do that. Okay, here we are. Never Fear, what does $1 reservation get you? It gives you a VIP reservation to the Kickstarters, and it gives you basically access to a couple of extra little goodies that you get off the top, and I think it gives you maybe a little discount. To tell you the truth, we haven't worked out all the details yet. We were just interested to see if anybody was going to be interested in the game first. And so we have a lot of things in mind, but until we know how many people are on board, that's going to help us figure out exactly what we can do. But there's going to be stuff for sure. Of course, all based on the fact that the project eventually funds. The Kickstarter itself won't start until later in the summer, but this is a way to try and get people excited about it early, so that when the Kickstarter launches on day one, we can pull the trigger and everybody can boom and fund it in the first day. That's the goal, right? Because Kickstarter, as I said in the video, it kind of lives or dies on the first day a lot of the times. So we would love to be able to have everybody pouring in the first day and exceed the goal, so that the Kickstarter algorithm sees that and says, "Oh, this is a project we love," and then promotes it to other people who wouldn't normally have seen it. So that's our goal. That's our hope. We'll see what happens. All right. All right. Chase says, yeah, and some were already saying it was way too crunchy, which I don't get. I love that the first combat was over pretty fast, but still felt like it had all the options to depth I love. Yeah, and it's interesting because I think in the video, the combat itself takes something like 15 minutes, but that's because I was explaining things. If I wasn't explaining things, that thing would have been over in probably less than 5. Bang, 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 bang. Like I said, once you get the core engine of this thing, it works real fast. Boof, 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 boof. Oh, somebody else asked about the dice tray. So that is a custom-made dice tray specifically for Season 4, but as well as specifically for the Broken Empires RPG because so much is opposed rolls. So there's 2 sections to the dice tray, and you can take your dice and you can roll them at the same time if you want. You don't have to, but you can, and you can see them right there. That's what those 2 sections are. But you can also pull the divider out and have a regular old dice tray as well. So that's what that one is all about. I'm all about having multiple ways of using stuff. Okay. Oh, and there's a Facebook group. Yes, Alka says VIP registration gets you into the Facebook group. That's one of the things that it gets you as well, and I'm going to be talking to you guys a lot on that Facebook group. I normally don't use Facebook, but this is going to change that because now I actually have something to talk about on Facebook, so we will be going there. Carl White says, are you planning to share a rules draft for folks to read at any point in this season? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I'm having it sort of widely play tested by my many groups as it is over the next few months, so that should be enough. But ultimately, it's going to have to be looked at by people who have no connection to me whatsoever. Obviously, we have to have a blind test, right? So we'll see how that goes. There's many different philosophies on how to handle that. Dark Emperor says, would you say that Savage Worlds is kind of like this, as in not too rules light or too crunchy? Yeah, I'd say if I had to pick a game that I think represents a similar level of quote unquote crunch, it would probably be Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds is a solidly rules medium game to me, which I like. That's part of the reason why I love Savage Worlds. It gives you a lot of detail, but doesn't slow things down too much. My game gives you more detail in different areas, but sort of less detail than others. You know, I'm drawing from so many different sources that, well, I guess we'll see. Season 4 will determine just exactly how crunchy all of the different aspects of the game are. So keep watching for more. All right. All right. Feel the Flump has a criticism, but I think it's well warranted. One thing that felt confusing was interrupting the travel rules in post to say that they changed. In my opinion, placing rule changes in separate vids or at the beginning of the next episode would be easier to follow. Well, that is true, and that's the only time I'm going to do that is in this premiere. I released before, a couple days ago, I released a video that was called my Designer's Breakthrough video, and there's going to be a bunch of those. I'm going to release those as tiny little shorts. Basically, anytime I have what would normally be an outtake of the episode where I realize something or I make a change, I'm going to make those videos and I'm going to release them as that. Kind of like an ongoing designer's diary, but I'm not going to have that in the main show exactly for the reason that you point out. I do not want to interrupt the narrative of what's going on. And as we go further into the season, I'm going to be explaining less and less. The show's going to become less and less tutorial and more narrative, simply because I'm going to assume that people who are watching this already know the basics of my game from having watched it from episode 1. For those who don't, well, that's on them. So, yes, I hear thee. I hear thee. Zach James, question. If you're planning on a shorter season, do you think that will mean you'll have shorter gaps between seasons? Well, I don't know. Maybe. I didn't intend to take 2 years in between, but it's not like I wasn't doing anything. I mean, I had a whole bunch of videos and projects in between that. I had the whole Blade Runner series that we did last year, which, to me, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's one of the best things I've done on the channel, hands down. It's an 8-episode, fully produced, fully role-played. It's got music and effects and minis and real people around a real table, and it's awesome. And it's 8 episodes, and it covers the entire first case file of the Blade Runner game, which is fantastic. Yes. Okay, I have to take a swig of my non-alcoholic beer here, which I'm not being paid to to represent in any way. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Oops. I keep losing my place on this thing, guys. Forgive me. Where are we here? Carlos redemption arc for season 5. Oh, here's Brown Bear. Thank you for the tip. There's not enough money to compensate you for this much creativity. You're very, very kind. Thank you very much for that. Ricardo, oh, this is interesting. About the female voice, there's actually an AI tool that you can use to turn your voice into a woman's voice. Maybe you can use it in the next episode. Who knows? I know. No, absolutely not. I may be the guy who doesn't want to be left holding the buggy whip, but when it comes to voice work, no, absolutely not. It's what I do. It is my career. And kind of more importantly, the current AI crop of voices, I don't like them. I think, for me as a voice actor, it'd be cheating. It would be cheating to use an AI voice in my show. For anybody else, they can do whatever they want. But in my show, I'm a voice guy. I'm a voice guy. I've been a voice guy for 25 years. If I started to cheat like that, no, I would never be able to forgive myself. So that will never happen on my channel. I promised you. Promise. Promise. Okay. Okay. Odin, I just watched the intro and came here to catch you live, but I'm already hooked on the story. Awesome. Awesome. That's really the most important part, because that's the thing that's going to keep people coming back, is whether they're interested in what's happening with the characters. All games are drama, although you don't need dramatic rules for it, but all games are about conflict that the characters have. That's what all games are. It's what all drama is. So if you're not interested in the conflict that the character is trying to overcome, you're not interested in the story. You're not interested in watching, right? It's just the way it is. Okay. Book Play says, we had a magical tsunami on S1. Well, that's not entirely true. That was a divine event. That was not an arcane event. The tsunami that was going to engulf the city of Hundatora was a battle between, a tiff between two gods, basically. So not quite the same thing. Although you could argue it's still high magic, but I'm not going to get into that. All right. What do we have here? Simon Templar says, Edbert. Edbert. Well, sure. Let's all scream Edbert. Edbert! Seasons 1 and 2 changed how I see RPGs. Mind blown. Thank you. That is awesome. All right. Fantastic. Taffer's Tower says, perfect. I'll use this system, the Broken Empire system, for my upcoming Sword and Sorcery campaign. It would work really good for that. Yep. It would work really, really good for that. Excuse me. All right, we have a bunch of stuff here. Oh, Samotny Podroznik. Excuse me. Forgive me for butchering your name. Question, how did you create a map for this season? I did not. My very, very dear friend Walross did all of the maps. You're going to see a map of the city of Ansharir coming up, which was his work as well. He does fantastic stuff. He pays meticulous attention to details. And the map that you see on the VIP page at play.thebrokenempires.com is the current version, but we're constantly adding to it. Constantly. So that map is just going to get more and more detailed. It's going to be chock full of stuff. We used to have a thing where we learned this from Pete Fenlon, who was the guy who did the original MERPS maps of Middle Earth back in the 80s. He would do this thing where he would put 3 dots on the map, and what that meant was a ruin. And that's all you knew. When you saw 3 dots on the map, you were like, oh, what is that? And we would go out of our way to go explore the 3 dots. That used to be a meme with us. Well, let's go to the next 3 dots. It gives me chills remembering that, because it was so cool. So that's kind of what Ross is doing for me with this map. He's basically putting a series of 3 dots at various places on the map that I can use in the show or in future seasons to sort of explore, right? So very excited about that. The Darkest Rain channel subscriber. I actually prefer the characters to have the GM's voice, just with a different inflection. It helps me concentrate on the other interesting aspects of the character. Yeah, I understand that for sure. And it's interesting. So there's that scene between Vale and Thrag in this episode where they turn and they're talking to each other. And I basically rotoscoped it. I did a Ralph Bakshi thing. I did. They kind of look animated, and I did that for a couple reasons. One, I wanted to separate the conversations of the characters between just me talking, and 2, I wanted to draw it back to that opening animation, the idea that I'm setting this idea that the characters exist on sort of a heightened plane from us, right? Just as a way to separate it, narratively speaking, or presentation-wise, I should say, not narratively. So when I did that, originally the idea was, well, we're going to do way more animation. Basically, like, I'm going to start talking and we're going to have Vale's face show up. But then I thought, well, A, that's weird. And B, it occurred to me that people tune in, the people who are tuning in to sort of follow the story of the characters, they want to see me play those characters. They don't want to see some animated version of it. And they also want to see the eyes. The eyes tell the story. The eyes of the actor tells the story. And so if I overlaid it with animated eyes, I think that would kill some of the effect. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna kind of take a middle road here, and I'm gonna give some aspect of animation to the characters when they're speaking to each other, but I'm not gonna overdo it. So that was why we did that. Okay. Where are we here? Imperturbable Dreamer. The amount of SLs for even such a simple spell seems like a lot. Spells are going to be real costly, won't they? Well, yes. However, what you didn't see was the other things that a Spellweaver can do to mitigate that. That will come up. I will say this, that Spellweavers in my game rely on what I call threads. And threads are physicalized pieces of the weave that they can draw upon to mitigate the stamina cost. So these threads become like currency to Spellweavers, like precious, way more precious than gold. So you're going to see some of that going up too. All right. How many fortune points do you start with, and how easy is it to gain them back? Well, I don't want to go too much into this, but I will say that fortune points are a very limited resource. There are ways to increase that when you make your character, but they're a very limited resource. They are per session, so you do regenerate them per session, so long as there's like a natural break point for the character to kind of take quote unquote downtime, you know, or sometimes maybe not. Maybe it will be just per session. Who knows? I guess I'll know in time, and you'll see me discover that. But they're very, very, very precious resources because they are very powerful. They can re-roll any 2 dice on the table, including an enemy's die. So that's a big deal. And of course, enemies don't have that. That is just a player character thing. Why did I do that? Because I want to give the player characters just a little bit of a leg up on the competition. Just a little bit. Again, we are not playing superheroes. You're not playing creatures. There's no such thing as minion rules in this game. Anybody with a drawn blade is a deadly threat because they could get lucky and stab you to death. So there's no such thing as minions here. This is not that kind of game. So the fortune point allows those players, because death is always around the corner in any combat, those fortune points allow the players just a little bit of breathing room to know that, okay, well, I've got a bit of a buffer here between me and a meaningless, ignoble death, right? So they're very, very, very precious, but there's not many of them at all. Okay. Carl Ravel, we had a little hex crawl. Well, sort of, not really hex crawl. An encounter, some combat, a touch of magic, some loot, and an overarching narrative. And we're learning a new system. What wasn't it like? Well, I agree. That was my goal. My goal was to give you a little taste of all of those aspects to sort of entice you to come back. So that was the hope. I'm glad it worked, at least for you, Carl. Speaking of hex crawl, so yeah, the journey system, there's actually 2 versions of it. One of them is very, very similar and inspired by the One Ring RPG, which is one of the great RPGs, as far as I'm concerned, that simulates Middle-earth, the Middle-earth experience. Never has there been a game that so perfectly represents its source material than the One Ring does, in my humble opinion. So they have a journey mechanic, which mine is heavily inspired by. It's not exactly the same. But then there's also a hex crawl version of the journey system, which you probably won't see in this season because it's unlikely that Vale is going to be just striking off into the desert to see what's out there. She's got a very definite goal. All right, here we are. Oh, Carpe Pule. So this is my friend who did the animation. As a dude who did the art for the intro animation, I have to give props to Trev for the editing and voice work. He put it together amazingly well. Well, thanks. Thank you, sir. I couldn't have done it without you, for sure. Rory O'Connor, I'm looking forward to seeing how social interactions work. Can you tease anything about that? Well, Vale and Thrag are on their way to the masquerade ball of the Vizier, and that is going to be one giant, tense social encounter. So, oh yes, that is coming up for sure. When will they get there? Who can say? Okay. Oh, this is a great comment. Moonlight, as someone who tends to lean lighter than you tend to, than you, as in me, this doesn't feel alienating to me based on the first episode. Awesome. Good. I'm so pleased to hear that. Again, there's a lot going on in this first episode. A lot. I throw a lot at the viewer. So I can understand if people go, oh my God, there's so much. No, I'm out. So to hear you say that is actually a big relief. Because I'm not trying to alienate. I'm not trying to scare you off. And I'm trying to do the opposite. Trying to show you that, look, this is a system that can provide all kinds of details. And again, I know not everybody's gonna like it. It's just the way it is. Not everybody likes chocolate. Not everybody likes vanilla. Okay. Where are we here? Skills. How do they advance? Glowaki's Workshop and Studio. So this is very similar to the Mithras game. So when you advance your skill, or sorry, at the end of an adventure, you get a series of experience rolls. And I will show this in the next episode. You basically, because everything is based on skills, you spend an experience roll to increase your skill, or you can spend a bunch of experience rolls on getting a new specialty, and a specialty is kind of like a feat, right? So how it works is you say, okay, I want to increase my athletic skill. So you roll a D100, and if you get over your current skill, it goes up by a certain amount. And if it goes under, it only goes up by 1. The idea is, it's harder to learn. It's harder to get better at something when you're really good at it. This is not my idea. This goes way back to RuneQuest, maybe even before that. But I love that advancement system because it's incremental, which I like. And yes, despite what anybody says, there's a massive difference between having a 62% chance and a 63% chance. And that difference is, if I have a 62% chance and I rolled a 63, that's a big problem because I just failed. So yes, that is a massive difference. You can do a lot with incrementalism in D100 systems. That's why I'm very drawn to them. But that's how they advance. Essentially, you spend experience rolls on either skills or specialties as you go. And there might be other things you can spend them on too. I'm sort of mulling that over, so we'll see. Okay. Ian Kelly, for liches like Montserrat, would the magic basically be binding of life with thread of immortality resurrection, or would it be a necromantic binding? There is a, we'll call it a school of magic about necromancy, and how it works is the schools of magic, the orders, they basically focus on certain combinations of bindings and strands. So yes, there is a necromancy school, and but you know, the Lich has a whole bunch of other things going on too, because he's really tough. All right. Oh, Darth Elmo, I'm not really into sim-style games, but I have to admit yours would be the one I'm most interested in trying. It seems to deal with a lot of my usual problems. That's awesome. That's a great compliment. Thank you. Okay. El Shiva, since you're not using AI in the book itself, aren't you afraid using it to promote it, such as on the website you have up, will give the wrong idea? This is the first day that thing went up. That's all placeholder art. We're going to replace all of that once we have human beings. But for the moment, we needed to have something because any art is better than no art. Art is very, very, very important to the feel, to the atmosphere of the game. And so, yeah, all of that stuff is placeholder stuff. I'm not afraid about getting the wrong idea. I'm not afraid of any of that. People are going to have problems with it or they're not. If they do, that's a them thing. That's a their problem, because there's going to be people who don't have a problem with it, and those are the people that I'm going to be catering to. So I get it. You know, I get it. It's a quote-unquote controversy, but I'm not interested in playing that battle out. I'm only interested in creating a really solid game that people like and want to help support. And also helping support the artists that will bring the art to life once we actually do have the real artists in place. Okay. Oh, this is a good question, Zach. Are you worried that setting the world to paper in the form of a map will hamper your creativity at all? That is something I thought about, but it's actually the opposite. When I have a big empty world, now I can be like, oh, well, I wonder what's over here. Let's explore and find out. So it is a little different than the way I've been doing things before, right? Because the way I've been doing things before was, I'm just going to invent everything as I go. But the fact is, I've had 3 seasons of that now, and I've already got a good idea of the shape of the world and some of the cultures and stuff, just by virtue of having played 3 seasons. So I thought I'm going to try something else. We're going to have a map, which is not too detailed, but it's going to give me some inspiration. Everything I do in the show is about being inspired, whether that's by the mythic tables or whether that's by a map or whatever, right? I love to create in the moment. So it's all about that kind of inspiration. Where are we here? Oh, can you tell us why the RPG was named The Broken Empires? Yeah, I can. A long time ago, I put a poll to my patrons on Patreon, and I said, I need a name for the world what do you guys think? And that was one of the options that came up, and I had a poll, and I whittled it down, and that was the one that most people voted on, and it was the one that I kind of liked the best. And the thing that sealed it, though, was that I had a conversation with Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, who was on this chat before. I'm not sure if she's still here, but if she is, hello, Kelsey. And she was the one that said to me, I really like that. It's very evocative. It makes me think of a lot of different kind of types of adventures. And I was like, okay, sold. Done. We're using it. Okay. Where are we here? Oh, this is interesting, Darth Elmo. I keep coming back to you. We must share a brain. Right now, the setting feels very Elric to me, but that could be just the dream prison. That is a good observation. I have been very inspired by Michael Moorcock in many ways. So, you're not wrong about that. You'll probably see more of an Elric kind of influence in terms of some of the feel. And maybe that's just because this season is more of a sword and sorcery kind of season that takes place in kind of like this desert city, which is, that skews more to something that Elric would get involved with. But yeah, that's a good observation. All right. More or less, Tori, can you count how many details you can get in one roll? It's hard to tell from the example image on the webpage. So what you get from a roll is you see if you succeed. You see how many success levels you generate. You see where you hit. And you also determine... There's something else in there that is escaping me right now. So, it's quite a bit from that. Because the success levels can be spent after the roll to enhance what you just did. And that is very backwards to a lot of people. Excuse me. It was backwards to me when I discovered it in Mithras. Mithras was the first place I saw that. You basically roll your weapon skill, and then afterwards, depending how you did against your opponent, that gave you a certain amount of what they call special effects. Same basic idea as mine, except mine's a little more granular. And that was weird to me because I'm like, wait a minute. But if I want to disarm the guy, don't I have to say I try to disarm him and then take a penalty and try? Nope. Mithra said, no. You decide afterwards based on the quality of the roll that you made against the opponent. I went, bing! Of course. That's awesome. Because the thing I've always hated about so many games from the old days was that, okay, I want to try and disarm him because I'm trying not to kill him. Okay, says the GM, well then roll at -20, at which point the player went, okay, forget it, I'm not going to bother, I'm just going to hit him then. So that discouraged the idea that combats were anything other than blood-soaked gore fests where you have to kill your opponent. And Mithras came along and said, no, you don't take a penalty for that. You use your combat skill against the opponent, just like my game does. And then after that, if you won, if you beat them, then you see how much you beat them by, and you can apply those success levels to doing certain things, knocking them prone, driving them into a different zone, compelling their surrender, all of this stuff. And I love that because it creates a situation where combat is not about killing the enemy. Combat is about defeating the enemy. And you have many ways to do that in this system. So that's where that comes from. Douglas Dingler, what controls will there be that magic users will not get overpowered as they gain experience? This is a problem other systems have been consistently troubled by. Well, the biggest one is the weave reaction. The more you try and screw with reality, the more reality is going to screw back, and it can be punishing. The interesting thing about the way my magic system works is you could have a skill of 90 or more, and that's no guarantee that the spell's going to work. And it's certainly no guarantee the spell's going to work the way you want it to. There's no guarantee that you're not going to roll a 12 and get 1 degree of success when you needed 8. Now you got to spend 7 stamina to get that spell to work at all. So again, that comes back to the thread economy of wizards and spell weavers, because they can draw upon those things like a magical staff, right? I have a staff that gives me X number of, uses of a control binding per day or whatever. So that is sort of the built-in limiting factor, is the idea that magic is powerful, but just because you're a master doesn't mean it's always going to work. You still might have to work for it. So it makes magic, the way I do things in this game, there's 4 essential pillars of conflict, okay? 4 arenas of conflict. There's combat, obviously. Then there's magic and travel and social encounters. So with combat, you roll your skill and then you apply your success levels afterwards. With magic, it's the other way around. You decide first what the spell is going to be and how much it's going to require in terms of success levels, and then you roll. And if you get it, great. But if not, you got to pay for that. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So it's backwards. And again, that's by design because we wanted each of the pillars to feel very, very different, but still use the same base mechanic. This is a good question I just lost. Where was it? Something about doing like a big mutiny scene with a bunch of characters and stuff. What you're talking about is mass combat. I do have a mass combat system. It hasn't been tweaked and tailored for this yet, but that's part of the plan. Part of the plan. Darius, are there any parts of Mythic you're specifically not using and why? Yeah, there's tons of them I'm not using. The second edition has the whole second half of that book is nothing but options called variants, I believe, and they're all awesome, but I don't need all of them. Like one of the variants that was included in the book was basically the Ironsworn Vow system, which I think is miraculous. It's a wonderful system. But what that system does is it focuses you on a vow. It focuses you on achieving a certain objective, and it introduces rules to help you do that, which I think is hugely valuable. For me, I don't need it because I already instinctively understand I don't like to use the word story, but story structure. I instinctively understand dramatic highs and lows. I instinctively understand pacing. So just because I've been in show business my whole life. So that's one of the advantages. So those rules, to me, just get in my way. But that doesn't mean I don't think they're awesome. They are awesome. It's just I don't need them. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that is in Mythic that I won't use, not because I think they're bad, just because I don't require them. Terry Priest, subscriber, is there a work-in-progress character sheet we could see to help with basic understanding of the attributes? At some point, I'll release something. Again, I'm not sure at this point how much to dole out, how much to show you, how much to tease. I'm not sure, but we're working on that. How many skills are there in this system? A bunch. They're basically divvied up into categories. Actually, 2 types of categories. But not an overwhelming amount. It's not like the old Rollmaster days where you had, 150 different skills or GURPS. It's not like that. You have a very finite set of skills. They're not so condensed that one skill deals with a million different things. Like, as much as I love Forbidden Lands, for example, Forbidden Lands, the skill system is very, very condensed. So there's not many. So that means that one skill is going to do the job of many different types of things, and that's perfectly fine. Works great in Forbidden Lands. For my game, I wanted a little more specialization. I wanted skills to be more specific, but not like, okay, for example, in Forbidden Lands, the skill is melee combat. I think you want to swing a sword, win an axe, shoot a crossbow. It's all not shoot a crossbow. That's ranged attack. If you want to use a weapon of some sort in combat, that's melee combat. You roll your melee combat. In my game, it depends on the weapon you're using. Is it a light weapon, a medium weapon, or a heavy weapon? You have skill in those different categories. But it's not, I have skill in longsword versus short sword versus dagger. It's not that. It's just categories of weapons. And that was a choice, just a design choice to give more detail without bogging things too much down. Because really, at some point, you have to determine your lines of abstraction. You have to say, if I make a choice here design-wise, what does it really give me? And either you like what it gives you or you don't. And for me, having too much delineation of things like weapon skills, it wasn't a big enough return on my investment. So that's why that is. Okay. Proudfoot. The One Ring 1E or 2E. I have 2E and it is great, but I heard good things about 1E as well. Well, I have both. I ran a 6-year campaign in the first edition. It had bumps and bruises and warts. Of course it did, but I loved it. I have second edition. I haven't really read through it, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned about some of the things I've seen on it. I'm concerned that they've made it too easy, but I could be wrong. So I have to read it first. For the things I've seen, it makes me go, it's a little too forgiving because my game is very hard. First Eve was very hard. All right. Where are we? Oh, Ty McMahon. Thanks for the opportunity to write something for you. Hope to be more available to add more for the show. Ty did the main theme of the show, and it is miraculous. Thank you, Ty. Thank you for that. Okay. Oh, never fear. Will we see more featureless Great Plains in the future? Yeah. Yep. Probably not in the near future, because I want to focus on my game. But yes, we will. I always love learning new games, tinkering with new systems. I could never not do that. All right. Where are we here? Aiden says, so we're in a game where it's better to avoid combats when possible than to try to slay everything in its path, right? Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't mean that I don't want players to be afraid of combat, because combat's fun. You want combat to be fun. But just players need to understand that if you go into a fair fight, you're dumb. The best way to ensure you don't take any damage is to ambush the enemy, give him no chance to draw his weapon, and take him down before he even knows you're there. That would be the smart play, but not every character is going to do that. If you've got the big noble knight that has this code of chivalry and they must only best their combat in fair duels, well, I hope he's really good, and I hope he's got good armor. Okay. Vodoli 3019, as a developer of the system, do you think that you have an advantage in knowing about how to cheat the system for a better outcome? This is the thing that we struggle with in playtests all the time, and that I struggle every day when I'm working on the game, is you're always looking for those edge cases where you can quote-unquote break the game, right? There's always going to be things that are loopholes that you go, wait a minute. So yeah, I'm very, very aware of that. Now, I'm not saying that I've found all the loopholes yet, because I haven't. But because I have so much experience with all kinds of role-playing games over the past 40-odd years, I can see a lot of the loopholes coming before they manifest. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So I can see a lot of the obvious flaws, right? So I'm very aware of that. And that's why I try and... I don't believe in game balance in terms of, the world shouldn't level up with you. You shouldn't walk into the forest and know, well, we're level 2, so therefore there's only going to be level 2 things here. I don't like that style of play. I find it boring. But I do believe in game balance in terms of the raw mechanics, so that there isn't an insta-win button, right? Well, the mechanics are so broken that obviously you always want to use a two-handed sword, right? That kind of thing. So those are the things we're always trying to work out and make sure that it's not an exploit, and that just takes time in playtesting. But yes, I'm very, very aware of it. Okay. How different is it playing your own system for the show as opposed to using an existing system? Well, it's terrifying because it's my child that I'm got on the sacrificial table for all of you. But in one sense, it's easier because I made the rules. So theoretically, they're more top of mind than another game. All right, here we are. Lots of stuff here. Gonna see if I can find some questions. Nicholas Nyberg, I also don't tend to be interested in simulationist games. Honestly, I found playing Mithras torturous, but yours looks quite interesting and I want to support you. Quite likely a PDF pledge from me. Thank you very much. Mithras can be torturous if you're not into that kind of thing. Mithras is a lot even for me, and I'm a simulationist. Mithras is a lot, and I would never use it in the show because there's so much going on and so much to keep track of. To try and play that solo, that would be an effort. Ooh, that would be an effort. Not saying it can't be done. I'm sure some of you have done it, but for me, it's too much. It's too much. All right. Let's see where we're at here. I'm way behind. I'm going to turn on the air conditioning in here. It is boiling hot. Boiling hot. Foo, were you born in the sun? Where are we here? Where's my thing? Okay. Jay Oliveira says, would you consider a solo module for your RPG? Yes, 100%. 100%. I mean, not because the game is designed to be solo, but that's how most people are going to encounter the game, because they're going to come see my channel and they're going to assume that it's a solo game, which is kind of a problem I have, because it's not a solo game. It's a regular old RPG. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to shoot an episode of a very small, compact adventure with real people around the table, much like I did for Blade Runner, but without all the crazy production values. And we're probably going to put that in the Kickstarter page to show people, oh, no, this is actually like a regular game that you play with people. But, excuse me, there will be a solo component. We're working those rules out now. Here's the thing about solo stuff. People said to me, oh, well, you got to have an Oracle in there. You got to have your own solo system. The fact is, I kind of feel like it's already been done so perfectly with all of these other systems. Why would I bother trying to keep up? Like, to me, Mythic 2nd Edition, even 1st Edition, is essentially a perfect product for me because it does everything I need it to do. So the idea of recreating that just for the sake of having it included in the book seems weird and kind of a waste of time. But from a business perspective, yes, everybody says, well, you can't possibly advertise somebody else's IP in your book. I don't know if that's true. I'm feeling a real sort of community with my fellow designers and especially the fellow YouTubers, and I kind of feel like we're all, in the end, trying to help each other out here. So I have no problem at all talking up somebody else's game in mine. I have no problem at all basically selling somebody else's product in mine. No problem at all, because it's a product I really believe in. So does it make business sense? No. But will I probably go down that road anyway? Like just not bothering with doing my own Oracle? Probably. But we'll see. If I come up with something that I think is really cool and more useful, I don't know how that's possible, but if I do, yeah, I'll include it. But otherwise, it's kind of like, you don't need me to do this. There are better people who have done this than I could do. Okay, Ricardo, about the world, are you going to detail every city and NPC like Forgotten Realms does, or are you going to do just the outline, the blueprints, as in Roads and Ruins? So, awesome question. I'm not going to detail everything, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, way too much work. Two, I don't want to have a meta plot situation evolve where players detail an area of the world and then, 2 months later, look, there's a supplement that comes out that's detailed the area that they've detailed, and now it's quote-unquote obsolete. Forcing them to choose, do I abandon my stuff or do I ignore the stuff? Or maybe you don't make that choice, maybe you do whatever you want. But the fact is, I know a lot of people think that way, and it bugs me. It bugs me when I've really heavily invested in an area of the world, and then a supplement comes out that kind of contradicts everything I've done. Now, I don't have to use that. I can ignore it. But my players might not all ignore that. And the zeitgeist might not all ignore that. So eventually that information of that product is going to come filtering down to my table, and they're going to start asking questions. Wait a minute, but you said this is the case, but it's not the case. So I don't want to do that to anybody. So my current plan is to heavily detail the areas that I have explored in the show, but leave very vague the areas outside of that. So, for example, the area of Angevard. Angevard is essentially fantasy France, medieval France. There was a character who was from Angevard in the first season. He was a hunter. He shows up later in the season. And Angevard is a broken empire. It's one of the old empires that existed, but it's still there. It's just heavily diminished. My current plan is not to detail too much about Angevard. I will show you where the major settlements are, the major landmarks, throw in a bunch of 3 dots. Like, ooh, what's this ruin? I don't know. It's up to you to figure out, right? I want to keep it open so that each GM can tailor it to their world. One of the things that Harn does really, really well, Harn's one of my favorite games and worlds, as you guys know. One of the things that Harn does is they have this incredibly detailed history that goes up to the year 720 and then stops. And they've pledged, and they've been true to this, they will never release a product that takes place after the year 720. Because they know they do not want to interfere with each individual personal Harn, right? So I love that, and I love the integrity of that. So that's kind of my model. I'm trying to go with something similar to that. Yeah. Okay. Where are we here? Okay, questions. Oh, Chase Street. Chase Street's paying for a question. Thank you, Chase. Follow-up question. A featureless Great Plane for Broken Empires down the road. Oh, that's an interesting idea. To really delve into the combat system of the Broken Empires. Yeah, I probably will, but that'll be after like that'll be after we release the Kickstarter to help sell it, probably. But yeah, that's a good idea, actually. We should probably do that. Okay. Where are we? So many. Oh, yes, there's Kelsey. She is here, but a bit delayed. Chris Niosi, my old friend Chris Niosi. How's it going, man? Okay. Jamie Mendez, why did you choose to use an opposed roll system instead of a system like Ironsworn, where just the players roll dice, or D&D, where people roll versus AC in combat? That's a big question. So let's take it a piece at a time. Why didn't I use a system like Ironsworn where it's players facing? Because I'm not into that. As a GM, I like to roll dice. And this is a game for GM and players. Even though I'm playing it solo, it is designed for GM and players. And as a GM, I cannot stand when I see in a rule book, it's player facing. The GM doesn't have to roll any dice. Like it's a chore. And I'm like, have to. I like rolling dice. I want to roll dice. So you will not see any player-facing stuff from me in the near future, just because my philosophy is, no, the GM gets to roll dice too. That's fun. That's fun. So that answers that. D&D where people roll against versus armor class, I've always hated armor class because armor class meant, and this I'm talking about from 1980, right, where I basically first came across it. As a little kid, I saw that and went, wait a minute. So this number determines how hard it is to hit you, but it's based on your armor? So your armor makes how hard it is to hit you? That doesn't make any sense. The armor should make like how hard it is to hurt you, which of course it does in D&D because it's fully abstracted. But that level of abstraction always bugged me. And then I found RuneQuest. And RuneQuest said, oh, no. How hard it is to hit the person is based entirely on whether they defend themselves or not. And if they don't, then where you hit them, if they have armor, that armor prevents badness from happening. And I went, yes, superior, like it. And that's why this is here. Now, again, that's all opinion, right? Everybody has their play styles. People love armor class because it's easy. People love hit points because it's easy. And it's fast. Great. I'm bored by it. I've always been bored by it. I remain bored by it. But that's why. Not saying you can't do it, or if you like it, you're a bad person or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea. Ricardo, somebody was talking about watching the video on 2x speed. First of all, don't do that. That's insulting. I work very hard on the pacing of the show, and if you make it sound like this, that's going to kill the pacing, and I will curse your name forever. And then Ricardo says, for me, Trevor speaks fast enough in one time. That's true. I go real fast. In fact, there was a comment on a video I did where they basically yelled at me in all caps, something like, you speak too fast. And I thought, oh, well, get over it. All right. Has the Dark Eye inspired the game? No. The Dark Eye is a game that's been around forever, and I've never laid eyes on it. So if it's inspired me, then it's been totally coincidental because I've never looked at it. Moonlight says, the music you've commissioned for this series is amazing. Yeah, it's pretty cool so far. I like it. I like it. Oh, Alex, Sage's Library One Ring. Yes, that's on the docket for sure. Again, I don't know when I'm going to get to it. I have a big One Ring Sage's Library episode planned because it's one of my favorite games. And Alex, you were there, so you know there's a lot to talk about there. Okay. Okay. Oh, Graham, you're late. Is the game solo? No, but it can be played solo with things like Mythic. Like every other game I've done on the channel, right? Ironsworn was the only game that was specifically designed for solo, and even then you can play it with a GM. But Savage Worlds Season 1, that's not a solo game. Dominion Rules Season 3, that's not a solo game. In fact, Dominion Rules is almost a solo unfriendly game, as I discovered, but I really like it anyway. Okay. F2P Coder, I like that the system doesn't baby the players. How does your system handle planes in comparison to the D&D game? You mean Planes of Existence? So Planes of Existence is pretty high fantasy stuff. That said, there is a strand, like a piece of the weave that magic users can tap into, called the Spheres. And the Spheres deals with the other planes of existence. It deals with demons. It deals with the stuff of raw magic, and it deals with sort of travel, right? Like teleportation and stuff. So that does exist, but I don't get too much into the planes of existence because that starts to get really gonzo. I'm not doing Planescape here. Again, keep your brain more in Westeros rather than Forgotten Realms, and that'll be closer to what I'm going for here. Okay. I'm losing my place again. Something about... Oh, Thalmivore! There you are, buddy. Dude, are we going to play this at Gen Con this year? That's my hope, man. I would love to run this for the YouTubers there. I talked to Professor DM about it. He's going to be too busy. He said, hey, let's get... Yeah, it sounds great. He said, let's get everybody together Wednesday night. I don't get to Gen Con till Thursday. So that's not going to work. So maybe we can talk about finding an hour or two at some point. I mean, I'd love to film it, but I don't think that's going to work because I don't want to haul a bunch of gear with me. So maybe just an audio thing. Who knows? I'm sure we'll record it in some fashion, but I'd love to have you there, Dave, as well as all the other YouTubers. It'd be fantastic to run you at least through a simple scenario in this thing. So let's sort that out, man. Let's sort that out. Okay. I'm losing you guys. You guys are way ahead of me here. Oh, everybody take a drink. Imagine Arn. Is that the game we're playing now? Makes sense, I suppose. It's not a lie. All right. How are we doing here? We're at an hour. I'll go a little while longer, and then I gots to go. Okay. Mike Matthews says, congrats on the launch. Looking forward to the rest, but I gotta go. There'll be football on the TV soon. That'd be soccer to you North American chaps. I understand, mates. Go enjoy your footy game. All right. All right. Rolboo says, just joined. In the end, when you did some magic, she had a decent level of 45 and needed 4 levels for a very basic magic spell. What does that imply for more complex magic and required SLs? Well, I talked about this earlier in the stream, so you can do a little rewind and check it out. Alka says, Sage's Library T2K. Yes, that's on the docket too. I've had actually a T2K, that's Twilight 2000, the Free League version, which I've ran and played in. Suffered my first TPK in Twilight 2000 when I played under my friend Jared, and I loved it. I know that sounds weird, that the whole party got wiped out by a Soviet artillery barrage and sniper group, but it was one of the funnest things I've ever done. So, yes, I will do a Twilight 2000 Sage's Library for sure coming up. Okay, Ricardo. Idea, 1 book for the rules, 1 for the setting. 2 books, double profit. Ha 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 ha. Well, my goal isn't to profit here. My goal is to present something that's usable. I'm really a big fan of role-playing games that have everything you need in 1 book. It's got some setting, maybe not the entire setting, but it's got a nice overview of the setting. It's got a bestiary, it's got a monster manual, it's got rules on magic and character creation and combat and GM advice and all that stuff. I really love everything in 1 book. I think anything else, I mean, there's many reasons for doing it otherwise, but for me, I want to keep it to that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to produce setting books or other things. I'm sure that if this is successful, and I hope it is, and with your help, it will be, I'm sure that there will be many, many opportunities to provide more stuff. Like I said, really detailed setting things on like the Serpent's Teeth Isles, right? The setting of Season 3. Or, you know, the Westlands, the area where Season 1 happened. Or, you know, the Red Wastes. There's probably going to be all kinds of stuff that happened there. Also, there could be like more rules that come up as people play. And, you know, you're going to have like extended rules, but all kinds of stuff, right? It's just the evolution of a game. That's the great hope, that the game is successful enough to warrant that. So we'll see. Butch plays. How many sessions have you recorded yet? Just the 1. I'm going to record the second one this week, hoping to have it completed by an air date of next Tuesday, but don't hold me to that because much as I want to be able to have a weekly release schedule, I can't promise that. These episodes are incredibly laborious to create. I typically give myself 4 days to try and do an episode from start to finish, and I don't always have that kind of time in the week, but that is my goal. That is my hope. So keep your eyes on the skies. Phil says, do skills have base values a la Call of Cthulhu and RuneQuest? Yes, they do, but they're calculated a little differently. They're calculated much easier than they are in RuneQuest. I don't know if I'd say it's easier than Call of Cthulhu. Probably on the same complexity as Call of Cthulhu. It's not very complex at all. But yes, they do have base values, and you have some... Actually, you have a lot of... excuse me, you have a lot of decisions to make when you're making your character about which aspects of your character you want to highlight. I will say that when you make a character in this game, you start off competent. Like, it's not a 0 to hero thing. You start off very competent at the thing that you want to be good at, but you can tailor from there, right? So, all right. Nataros, now I want to know more about the system. When are you showing more? In episode 2, which you will have to tune in on the next episode of Me, Myself, and I to see whenever that happens, hopefully next week. Okay. That Cromwell, will the Broken Empire's bestiary... I always say bestiary, and I know it's bestiary, but I like bestiary. So I'm saying bestiary. I'm saying bestiary, and you can't stop me. Will the Broken Empire's bestiary be more setting-specific or familiar classic monsters? Both. There are already classic familiar monsters in the Broken Empires, but there's going to be weirdo things too. Like in Season 1, Episode 2? 3? 3, I think. When Simon and Mord, the orc, went to the village. They fought these bizarre, like, ground-dwelling centipede things that could put people to sleep with this cloud of gas. So that stuff will be in there because I invent that stuff randomly as I play the game. So you better believe it, there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff in there, as well as your orcs and your trolls and your dragons and stuff like that. Okay, Chase, question. Mentioning your first total party kill reminds me of my raccoon character in 2nd edition Gamma World back in the day. Has this game made it to Sage's library? If not, will it? Do you know that Gamma World, I totally missed that one. I played Gamma World once, and it was only a few years, well, probably like 15 years now. And I played it, and it was, I think it was the new version, like maybe the 4th, I don't even know. I think it was the one that was tied more to the D&D 4th edition. But yeah, I missed that one entirely, dude. So there'll be no Gamma World on the Sage's library because I never played it, which is weird to say out loud, but it's true. Thomas Randy, quick suggestion. Love sample NPC stats pre-made. There'll be a ton of those. Not to worry. A ton of those. I want to make the GMing of this game very easy, and that means not only explicitly guiding the GM on how to run the game, because this game runs a little differently behind the screen than a lot do. Like, you don't have things like challenge ratings, right? Or you don't have experience point values to put up against your character because there's no class and level in this game. So you can't base things on that. So instead, GMing this game is more of a philosophy. It's more of, this is the kind of experience you want to help create and foster, and this is how to use the rules to do that. That's what I'm doing in the GM stat. But there will also be, in the bestiary, there's going to be all kinds of stuff. Sample, you're going to have, your sample town guard, your sample bandit. Here's a easy, medium, and tough bandit. So all that kind of stuff, right? To make it easier to just grab something and go, ha, this is who you're fighting, or whatever. Question, if someone was getting into recording solo games, what would your biggest piece of advice be? Don't do anything close to me, because you'll be competition, and then I'll have to have you eliminated. I don't know, man. Do what you will. Alexander says, do items have characteristics? Is it heavy? Some do, but it's not heavy. It's very simple. Yeah. Charles Prouty, can you name the threads? No, I can't. I mean, I can, but I won't, because I want to slowly tease those out as the sessions go on. Okay. Well, everyone's agreeing with me on the pronunciation of, or pronunciation on bestiary. So that's good. Scott Broadway, great first episode, Trevor. Question, will your game world be able to be tuned up and down in terms of personal taste? For example, if I wanted to create a character that can astral travel. Yeah, I mean, I can't stop you from doing that stuff. You will see that the magic system, because it's so versatile, is going to open up a lot of possibilities. Now, I may not show those possibilities on the show because I tune my game to a much lower fantasy setting, but that doesn't mean that you can't, that's another advantage of the world of Harn. Have a drink, everyone. Another advantage of the world of Harn is that you can tune up or down the fantasy. You can turn up the fantasy, turn down the suck, or whatever you want, right? So you can do that in my game too. The mechanics are not difficult. They're just slightly different to a lot of rules light-minded people, but they're not particularly complex. So you'll be able to futz with it as much as you want. At least that's the hope. I mean, we'll see. All right. The Darkest Rain says, trying to write up the game master is a role of philosophy is so difficult. That's how I've been developing my game, and trying to put abstract thought into words is so hard. It sure is, man. You know what else I found is that, I was about to say tactical writing, not tactical, technical, tactical writing. 2x2 cover formation to this paragraph. Go. No, a technical writing is incredibly difficult if you don't have a background in it, and I do not have a background in it. I have a background in prose writing, and I have a background in script writing, but technical writing is a whole other beast. I have to kill my babies every page, because I write something very flowery and then realize, okay, first of all, dude, I don't even know what this rule is because it's couched in so much flowery language. Get rid of that semicolon, get rid of those brackets, bang, 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 just cut right to the heart of what the rule is. But of course, you don't want it to be just a dry kind of technical manual either. You want to have, infuse it with a little life. That's the line, right? That's the line that I'm discovering. I've never written a full game book before, so this is new for me, and I'm learning a lot, let me tell you. Okay. James Wood, how long have you been working on the Broken Empire system? Well, as I said, it's kind of the product of 40 years of experience, but really I started putting things into actual paper last summer. So almost a year. But as I said, these ideas have been floating around my head for my whole life, basically. What is your personal favorite feature of your game? The wound die. Oh, how I love the wound die. The wound die. I love the wound die. It makes combat scary. And it means that every time you get hit, if you take a wound, wear armor, people. Wear armor. If you take a wound, oh, it could screw you up, Bubba. Oh, it could screw you up. And I love it. It's so terrifying and awesome. James Wood, has it been in my mind since? Do you mean my mind? Has it been in my mind since season 1? The game system? Well, I mean, not specifically, but yeah, I mean, I'm always thinking about these rules. I've always been thinking about them. It's just the first time I've actually put them to paper, and I thought people might enjoy taking part in it. So, okay. Moonlight. Yeah, these 2 points are really good. Game writing is particularly awkward because the book needs to be both reference and a teaching tool. And Alka says that the book needs to be inspiring as well. Totally. That's exactly it. Jason Martin, thank you. Name your creature section the Bestiary. That's funny, and I think I might do that. Thank you. Because you paid $2, now it's going to be called the Bestiary. CPG, will there be a solo rule supplement for this? We talked about this earlier in the stream, so do rewind and have a look. Ricardo, the Bestiary could have 1 random table for each monster to give them some variation, like in Dolmo Node. Yep, definitely could do that. Chase, big tip. Thanks, buddy. Tactical writing seems like Twilight 2000 TPK has more of an impact on Trevor than he thought. Yeah, apparently. Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. You know, the best part is that the session before my first character got killed, but he died in such a heroic way. He died saving his whole team in a tank. He basically just, you know, I'm not going to get into a game story, but it was awesome. And I gave my life to save the team. And the next session, I made up a new character and we all got killed. No, you're all going, how is that fun? Believe me, it was awesome. Andy Reimer, is the concept of the wound die drawn from an existing game? No. As I've said at the beginning of this stream, I stand on the shoulders of giants, and this game is heavily, heavily drawn from scores of role-playing games that I've had experience with over the years. But the wound die, I've never seen it done, I don't think ever, the way I do it. I could be wrong about it. I hope I'm not inadvertently grabbing that from some game and not giving it credit. But I don't think it is. I think the wound die is a wholly unique thing, at least the way I do it. But again, I don't know every game either, guys. Like, if there could be a rule from Gamma World that I'm using and I don't even know. But I've never played Gamma World, so I wouldn't know. Anyway. Okay. Nicholas Nyberg. Regardless of the system, I'm very excited for Season 4 starting. We'll have to commence a full rewatch of the previous seasons to celebrate. Please do. Every watch helps me. Carpe Poulet. Oh, this is my animator. Have you ever in 40 years played a game from the book with no changes? That is an awesome question. I always try, when I start running a game, to play it raw, rules as written, because I want to understand what it was that the designers intended. It's very easy to suddenly slap on house rules to a game, but I've learned over the years that if you want to experience this game, then you need to run it rules as written, at least for the first couple sessions. Because otherwise, if you just slap on your house rules to a new game that you're playing, well, now you're just playing the same game you've played this whole time. So what's the point of having a new system, is how I see it. So for me, I always run raw out of the gate. Excuse me. And then, inevitably, I house rule it. Because that's what we GMs do. We see a game, we go, I love this! And after about 3 sessions, go, I want to tweak this. I just want to change this little, just change that. And then that's how it works. That's how it works. Okay. Alex, I know this is probably way too early for this, but do you have any plans for making an FI version of your game? What do you mean? What do you mean, good sir? An FI version? Am I not? What am I missing? Something? Do type. Tell me what you mean, Alex. I don't know. Graham, do you think that a wound system would mean characters get pretty beat up? Should we use larger parties? Yeah. which now you've seen episode 1 and there's only 2 of them. They're in trouble. No, you need someone in the game. You definitely need someone with two very crucial skills. One is first aid, and the other is chirurgery. Chirurgery is just the medieval form of surgery, but they do very different things, and they are both absolutely crucial. If you are in a fight, first aid can save your life. You cannot heal your wounds without a chirurgeon there. Otherwise, they risk infection. Dun, dun, dun! Infection rules! Which are currently optional, but they're awesome, so use them. Okay. Oh, sci-fi. Is that what you mean? Sci-fi? Oh, yes, that's what you mean. Oh, sci. I just didn't reach your question, Alex. Do you have any plans for making a sci-fi version? I guess if I read the words, I would know what you're talking about. Not currently. I don't see any reason why the system wouldn't be able to work in the setting. You'd have to change a few things, like you'd have to add rules for guns and automatic fire and stuff like that. But yeah, it could be done. The system itself, the core is very malleable. So yeah. Okay. Scott says, can you imagine if Arn had to roll the wound die at the end of season 2? Yeah, exactly. Ooh. I can tell you that if I was to use the Broken Empires RPG in any other season, oh, it would have all turned out very differently, because every season is a product somewhat of the system that it was using, right? It influences the outcome of events. Okay. Proudfoot, healing sounds like Pendragon, and about 100 games before it. Yes. Pendragon was another inspiration for me, and also its personality mechanics. Now, you haven't seen that in the show yet, but I have personality mechanics as well, which are not, again, they're not complicated. They're purely optional. Basically, what they do is they give you an immediate way to look at your character sheet and to know how that character would respond to a certain situation. You don't have to use them. You can totally ignore them. But if you choose to use them, it's awesome. Because what I found with personality mechanics is that there's going to be cases where you're not sure how this character would react. You're sure how you would react. But you want to say, well, you know what? I'm not really interested in playing me. I want to see how this character reacts. And you roll on the personality mechanics, and that will determine what the character does. Again, totally optional. But I've found that they work so well as long as they're used in that way. And there's also an experience reward. If your personality changes by using those mechanics, which there's a way, then you get extra experience. So it's sort of a carrot dangling there as well. Okay. The Darkest Reign, is there going to be vehicular combat? I know you homebrewed some in a previous season. Did they end up sticking around? Well, the naval, you're referring to the sea combat rules that I developed for Dominion rules in season 3. Yeah, those are they're already in the rules. They haven't been fully ported over yet, but the basic idea is very similar. Dominion rules, the core system is very similar to mine, except it uses a D12. But it's very similar. In Dominion rules, you want to roll under but high. It's a blackjack system. And you also, if I recall correctly, you subtract the opponent's successes from yours. So it mitigates your success. I think. In fact, that's maybe where I was inspired directly from. I'm not sure. But those rules for naval combat are based on that. So it's a very easy port. There's not going to be a lot of naval combat in the desert, mind you. But there might be chariot combat. Who knows? Who knows? Who can see? Who can see? And Proudfoot says, I'm hyped for your game now. Well, that was the goal. So I'm going to cut it here, guys, but thank you so much for joining me. If you want to help bring this game to life, please do go to play.thebrokenempires.com and sign up to become a VIP member. You're going to get access to the Facebook group, and you're going to have access to all kinds of special goodies there. The details of all of that are on the page. And we'll see you on the next episode, which, like I said, I'm hoping to get done by next week, but we will see. Fingers crossed. In the meantime, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your gamer buddies to come and watch the show, because the more views, the merrier. So thank you all, and I will see you on the next episode of Me, Myself, and I.